one wonders whether that may happen now. Can you take us again, Al, through the security procedure at an airport like Madrid?
At Madrid or at Barcelona, the two largest and most important airports in Spain, one checks in for an international flight, and just it seems to me as a traveler through these airports that security is tighter for international flights than it is for domestic flights in Spain. That's just a personal observation, basically going through these security machines, and it seems on an international flights, the guards seem to pay more closer attention. But in any case, one checks your bags, then you walk a few steps and you go through passport control and enter the zone where you have to put your hand luggage on the typical airport control moving belt so that they can x-ray it and see what's in there. And then you walk through this kind of frame, a door frame, and the guards are watching to see what the door frame does. And often it beeps and makes sounds, in which case you have to come back and take coins and keys out of your pocket and then walk through again. They often will have you come back if you try to walk through in the winter, for instance, with a heavy coat over your shoulder. They will say, no, you have to go back and put the coat through the x-ray belt, and certainly that would go for a pouch around your waist, which you might be carrying some documents or a portable telephone in. Bobby?
Of course, then again, you can still get on a plane and say that you have a bomb strapped to you, for example, and manage to hijack a plane, because no crew member is going to ignore that threat just because they don't know whether or not you're telling the truth. We should explain to you that we are carrying video from our affiliates in Miami at this time, and they, of course, control the video that we see. So if occasionally you see a reporter pop up on the screen, that is from the local coverage down there. We are seeing some movement around the plane now on the ground. We saw what appeared to be a police car pull up just a few moments ago. We're trying to get a clear picture now from WPLG. There are people that would appear to be coming off the back of the plane at this time. We can only speculate that they are passengers on board Iberia Airlines Flight 6621. It does look like there are people coming down steps there, and there are emergency and law enforcement personnel vehicles in the area. If we can get some confirmation of that, we would know whether or not those were passengers coming off the plane or crew members or whatever. The hijacker, as we understand, has asked to surrender. So we don't know what the latest is with that, other than he is in contact with law enforcement officials and the air traffic control tower at this time. And this is always a fluid and delicate situation, so it may take a little bit more time than one would think to take the hijacker into custody. We don't know terribly too much about him at this time, other than he is a single male. We don't know if he's a Cuban national necessarily, and that he has some kind of weapon. There was one report from Washington that it was a bomb, or he said he had a bomb when he diverted the flight from Madrid to Miami. And now there does seem to be quite a number of people coming off the back of the plane now, so we would need to assume, I think, that these are passengers. Frank, are you there?
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. In some of these pictures we've seen, Bobby, we've seen some considerable number of people walking off the plane. This is very reminiscent of a situation I recall viewing at JFK some time ago after the hijacker had made clear that he wanted to surrender and there was not going to be a problem. There was this great gush of people who were getting off the plane. That seems to be what we're seeing here. There does not, from the bits and pieces of pictures we see, seem to be a great deal of running around. You can see buses there now, which presumably are out there to pick up the passengers, and those do indeed appear to be a great number of people walking off the back of the plane, no doubt very relieved if this thing is over, as it certainly would appear at this time.
But we don't know yet whether the hijacker has been taken into custody.
No, we don't know that. There's still, we've seen a number of vehicles with their lights flashing, law enforcement vehicles that are around. So as I mentioned, you know, if this thing appears to be over, it may be over for the passengers. We don't know whether or not it's over for all of them. We don't know whether it's over for the hijacker. We're just seeing what we're seeing, which thankfully is a number of people getting off this aircraft. And again, it's worth noting, Bobby, these other aircraft that are coming and going, this Iberia plane being tucked away as this negotiation and now exit is unfolding. And in fact, now we see the people getting off the plane and onto those buses. What a relieved group of people they are.
And perhaps we'll be able to get comments from them momentarily, although I don't know how that procedure works as well. Whether they'll even have time or the inclination to deal with that, or they'll try to get them immediately on another flight to Havana. There were 231 people on board, 12 to 13 of them crew members, and we are now being told, by whom, Simon? But Iberia Airlines is now telling us that the hijacker has surrendered and is in custody at this time. So perhaps while the passengers were being taken off the plane, in the front of the plane, the hijacker was being taken into custody at the same time. And gratefully, this whole situation has ended peacefully. Frank?
Bobby, one thing that's worth noting that we should say is we're told that in most circumstances, such as the one we're seeing, the FBI is going to want to be talking to these passengers for a couple of reasons. Obviously, different passengers, depending on where they have been in the plane, what they have heard, will be material witnesses to whatever took place on that aircraft. And secondly, investigators want to be very sure that it really was only one hijacker, if that in fact is the case, or identified hijacker, that he may or may not have been working with anybody else. So you've got a plane full of witnesses here who will be questioned and interviewed before they're allowed to go on their way.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, was whether or not these this trip for these people will have to be delayed even longer and
now, they're
only
not done,
add to their anxiety.
Right, they're not done with Miami just yet. But it is fortunate for them that this negotiation, and again, this is repeating somewhat, but it's worth noting, and it's certainly part of the explanation for what we're seeing right here. Under circumstances like this, much of the negotiation may actually take place in the air, so that if the situation can be quickly resolved, law enforcement wants to resolve it as fast as possible once this aircraft touches the ground and is set aside like this. The last thing anybody wants is a prolonged situation where people are cooped up on a plane, where a hijacker who may or may not be agitated or stable is locked up essentially with a group of distraught, very uneasy people.
So it was good news to everybody when that plane landed on the ground, and the first thing we heard was that the hijacker wanted to surrender.
Right. Clearly, the discussions have been underway in the air, which is done whenever a situation like this occurs. The FBI, major airports have negotiators and have hostage rescue teams at the ready, so that when these things, as they occur, if they occur, they're ready to move fairly quickly. This appears to have been a very streamlined operation, fortunately.
So now, will they keep this hijacker in Miami for questioning, or will they be moving
I don't know
him?
that. I don't know that, Bobby. I know that, again, what we were told, at least at the outset, was it was the FBI principally who would be taking this person into custody, again charged with air piracy. Where that will proceed, I don't know. Certainly at the outset in Miami, we're going to try to find out some more information as to what standard operating procedure is, and we'll be hearing, I'm sure, from law enforcement there in Miami in fairly short order once they have some more specifics to tell us.
And we see the buses now leaving the airport runway with the passengers on board from Flight 6621, who we are happy to report are all safe. But as Frank mentioned a few moments ago, they will be undergoing probably several hours worth of questioning from federal officials before they can be on their way again to Havana.
And Bobby, this is going to open right back up again the whole discussion of the safety of the airline system and air passengers, and what, if anything, further can be done, even in addition to what we heard announced yesterday, to assure the safety of passengers. It just is a nightmare scenario to think that this kind of thing can happen. Clearly, someone who's determined or who wants to try to get something past security can take a number of extraordinary measures, but it is the efforts of those in charge to shut that down wherever possible. And we're going to be seeing, I think, more of that. We're going to be hearing more of that sort of thing following this event. It just is another reminder that nothing is foolproof.
And let's see what we can hear now on in Miami. See what they're saying.
This plane was en route from Madrid to Havana. And this stop in Miami was, of course, ordered by the hijacker, and it appears has been concluded peacefully, and those passengers will be dealt with. And let's go back out to the airport, and Rad Berkey, I can hear you in my ear. What additional activity do you see around that plane right now?
Well, we saw some of the buses leave already. You can see a couple of them, John. If you pan to the right there, you can see those buses beginning to move off. We assume they have had the passengers on board put on board those buses and now are being taken off somewhere where they can be certainly questioned by the FBI and Metro-Dade police as to what they saw and what happened.
Does there appear to be a greater police presence around the plane now?
That's difficult to determine from our area, but it certainly looks like when those buses pulled up, there were at least 5 or 6 cars that moved in with the buses. So yes, the answer to that would be yes, there would be a larger presence around the bottom of the plane and the base of the stairs.
And I assume, Rad, that they may want to debrief some of the passengers who perhaps were closest to the situation as it unfolded there on the plane to see how they saw what happened.
Absolutely, because if charges were to be filed against the man, you would need, obviously, witnesses should it ever come to trial, which, of course, raises the interesting question of where would such a trial happen? Is this now a crime in America? Because Iberia is certainly not an American flag carrier. It did wind up here in Miami. Who has legal jurisdiction? All sorts of legal questions that right now I'm sure the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, are talking about.
Well, the FBI certainly...
And we seem to have reached a peaceful solution at the Miami International Airport. Let's back you up to about 30 minutes ago when we saw the airline first land at Miami International Airport, Iberia Airlines Flight 6621, coming down for a landing after being hijacked on its way from Madrid to Havana, Cuba, hijacked to Miami International Airport earlier this afternoon. 231 people on board, 12 to 13 of them crew members, 218 passengers. It was scheduled to land in Havana, Cuba this afternoon, diverted to Miami. We don't know much about the hijacker at this time. He is a single man, we know that, and we don't know if he's a Cuban national. We do know he was armed with some kind of weapon. One report says it was a bomb, or at least he said he had a bomb, and he asked to fly to the United States and then was more specific about that and asked to be flown to the Miami International Airport. When the plane got on the ground, law enforcement officers surrounded it. It didn't take long, as we speculated, that communications with the hijacker had probably proceeded well before the plane was on the ground, at least through the pilot. And once communication was set up with the hijacker, he asked to surrender almost immediately upon landing. And shortly thereafter, the 218 passengers were escorted off the aircraft and taken to buses. Well, they will be questioned by federal authorities for several hours before they're allowed on their way to Havana. And the hijacker has been taken into custody by federal authorities and will face the appropriate circumstances. We'll be back in just a few moments. We'll take this break first.